Hello everyone, Fanta here, and you are watching Fantavision. Today I'm reviewing Call of Duty World War II. Call of Duty World War II is the first Call of Duty game that I have bought at a midnight launch in years. The series became stale due to its yearly releases with only minor improvements and changes with each of its new iterations. Futuristic Call of Duty games outstayed their welcome, as proof by the dislikes on the Call of Duty Infinite Warfare trailer. When Battlefield 1 was announced, people were extremely excited to visit a time period that hadn't been done before in a modern shooter. Same went for the announcement of Call of Duty World War II. Even though World War II had been done an innumerable amount of times in games already, players were excited to see Call of Duty come back from the future. But is this return to the series' roots worth it for fans that have been alienated to return back to the series? Let's take a look. As with many Call of Duty games these days, there are three major sections of the game to look at: the campaign, multiplayer, and Nazi zombies. Let's start with the campaign, even though the vast majority of players won't even touch this section of the game. Seriously, when I was playing through the campaign, the percentage of players who had gotten that far kept going down, until I reached the end, which had an achievement pop up stating that I had gotten an achievement that less than 2% of Call of Duty players had achieved. Even with all of the horrific server issues, players still weren't playing the campaign, which is sad because the story is actually worth playing through. The campaign's beginning feels like a bit of a mix between Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan, with the player getting to know his group of buddies and then immediately hitting the bloody beach of Normandy on D-Day. We then follow this group of fairly generic soldiers through many of the major battles of World War II. I'll admit, I did start to empathize with the soldiers and wanted them to make it through the war, but the gritty realism that the game kept trying to have was repeatedly ruined by the constant Michael Bay-like action set pieces. My suspension of disbelief was completely shattered after your little jeep derails an entire train that was just described as a fortress on wheels. Your character then proceeds to be the luckiest person in the world, as all of the massive train cars and debris just barely miss squashing him as they fly by. These moments really pulled me out of the game and made me audibly groan. Even worse is when the game tries to have an emotional moment right before or right after one of these ridiculous segments. As I said before, when the story started, I wanted to see how this group was going to fare during each battle, but by the end it turned into complete schlock. After what seemed like the 5th flashback to a hunting trip gone wrong with the main character's brother, I couldn't care less what was going on anymore. I'm not going to spoil the story in this video, but the hard shift the story makes in tone almost deserves a video on its own. Something that I really did enjoy were the intricate stealth missions that gave you a silenced weapon or had you impersonating a Nazi officer. The mission where you have to make your way through a Nazi headquarters to rendezvous with an Allied spy, all while having to have your fake papers memorized, really changed up the pace from the constant shoot everything in sight levels. Even after all of the melodramatic moments, I did enjoy the relatively short 6-hour campaign. It could have been significantly better if they had made sure to keep the tone consistent and resisted the urge to add the over-the-top action sequences. As with every Call of Duty, the main meat of the game is the multiplayer. Combat is slower than recent entries in the series due to the lack of jump jets and wall running, but even with the dated technology of World War II, it still keeps the pace of the combat swift and frantic. I'm sure quite a few people are wondering, since the combat is a bit slower than the futuristic entries in the series, is the multiplayer a completely different experience? No. If you didn't like Call of Duty before, I don't think this game is going to change your mind, unless the only reason you didn't like the franchise was because of the futuristic entries. However, even though I don't think this game will change any Call of Duty haters' minds, I do have to say that the combat feel of this game is the best it has been since Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The guns feel balanced, and I feel that the longer time to kill makes the game much more enjoyable. I also feel that the level systems in place will keep players satisfied for a long time, as they are consistently rewarding with new gun attachments and unique perks for their divisions. All of the usual game types are here to keep fans happy. And they even added a new game mode called War to keep things fresh. In War, players compete on 3 different maps where they are given certain objectives in order to progress the map. The 3 different maps and the objectives featured in this new game mode are based off the campaign missions and add a narrative feel to each match. With the right teamwork, matches are extremely fun, and this could easily be my new favorite game type due to the varied objectives throughout the match, keeping things interesting. Unfortunately, even though this multiplayer is one of the best in the series, they just had to ruin it by adding loot boxes. At first, I thought they had at least only made them contain cosmetics, which is still no excuse to have them, but nope, they just had to put in specialty weapons. Many of the items can be bought with in-game currency separately, but they are extremely overpriced. I almost forgot to mention that in this Call of Duty, instead of a normal multiplayer menu screen, you walk around an area called the headquarters. While walking around, you can watch other people open loot boxes in real time. When this part of the game was working, it was more of a hassle that other people could watch me, or open loot boxes in front of me. I would be trying to open mine and somebody else would open theirs right next to me, blocking me from viewing what I had got. People would also go out of their way to try to stand in front of the cards, so once again, I had no idea what I opened. There's no benefit to headquarters existing, and makes it even longer just to get to the menu in order to play multiplayer. It is obvious that Activision put this in the game just to prey upon people that can't help themselves from buying loot boxes, and are trying to push others to do the same. This year, Nazi Zombies really focuses on having players not only survive waves of the undead, but also complete narratively focused objectives. Players take on the role as a team who had been recovering art pieces stolen by the Nazis. This time they are sent to a Nazi laboratory where they have been experimenting with artifacts and Tesla technology to create the ultimate weapon to win the war. This weapon backfires on everyone in the lab as it creates an unstoppable horde of zombies that not only destroys the train that your team is traveling on, but kills all of the Nazis who are part of the experiments. As you and your team kill zombies, you are rewarded with the currency called Jolts. This currency is what you use to equip different weapons, and to continue the story by powering up different parts of the lab. The situation gets worse and worse as you slowly uncover what the Nazis have been up to. Nazi Zombies got stale for me soon after it debuted in World at War, but I thoroughly enjoyed working together with my team to try to stop the Nazis' zombie horde from being unleashed on the world. Once again, even if this is the best iteration of Nazi Zombies, they had to ruin it with more loot boxes. Yes, that's right, there are loot boxes in Nazi Zombies. These loot boxes are even more broken as they give you perks that actually impact the gameplay by improving how well your team does. With all of that in mind, I give Call of Duty World War II a 7.5 out of 10. This may be one of the best games in the Call of Duty series, but Activision just had to get greedy and dampen my excitement, bringing what could have been a 9 or a 9.5 down to a 7.5. Selling the game for $60, asking players for another $50 for the season pass, and then smacking players in the face with loot box microtransactions is just unacceptable. The campaign was enjoyable, Nazi Zombies is the best it has ever been, and the overall multiplayer experience is satisfying enough that I can see myself playing this game for months or even years to come. Something I wanted to mention before I end this review is just how terrible the launch of this game has gone. Even today, when this review is going up, I'm still having trouble playing online. When I did my review, I was lucky enough to get into a lobby and stay in a lobby for many hours, but once I left, I could barely get back in. I also had problems opening loot boxes, I lost contents of a loot box, and one time when I was just about to beat the damn zombies mode, it errored out and kicked me from the game. So it's been a super disappointing launch for the game, and I'm hoping that they fix these troubles soon, but it's still unforgivable that a company that is asking for all of the money in your wallet can't simply launch a fixed and working game. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you guys liked the review, definitely leave a like down below. Subscribe for more content like this, share it with your friends, and as always, everyone, have a Fanta-tastic day. See ya.